So imagine if tomorrow, every single bill you have for the rest of your life was just paid.
Oh, wow.
Right, your rent, your groceries, your medical care, all of it just totally handled.
That sounds like a dream.
It does. But, I mean, think about it. What would you actually do on Wednesday?
Oh,
Because the immediate kind of reflexive answer that society drills into us
yeah.
is that you would, just sit on the couch, turn on the TV, and rot.
Exactly. Just do absolutely nothing.
Yeah, we're told that without this constant threat of starvation or homelessness hanging over us, human beings would just default to doing nothing, and civilization would just, bam, instantly collapse.
And we rarely stop to question that, do we?
Never. We just accept it as, like, the absolute foundation of our daily grind.
Well, I mean, it's really the bedrock assumption of modern economics.
Yeah.
We operate on this deeply entrenched belief that human beings are, at their core, just inherently lazy.
Inherently lazy. Yeah.
Right. And the entire architecture of our society relies on this idea that we require the looming threat of financial ruin just to be, productive members of civilization.
Okay, let's unpack this because, I mean, what if that entire premise is completely backward?
Oh, it very well might be.
Right. So today's deep dive is zeroing in on a massive societal what if. We've got some fascinating source material today, and our mission is basically to tear apart the ultimate pushback to the idea of guaranteeing basic human needs.
Which philosophers and economists usually call the laziness objection.
Exactly, the laziness objection. The argument is super simple, right?
Yeah.
If survival is guaranteed, everyone stays home.
But the deeper we look into the actual mechanics of human psychology and history, the more that cynical assumption just completely falls apart.
It really does. It shatters.
Right, because dismantling that objection requires us to look past how people behave right now.
Under all this pressure.
Yes, under the crushing pressures of the current system. You really cannot measure baseline human nature by looking at someone who is, frankly, trapped in a survival loop.
Right. That's not baseline at all.
Exactly. To understand what the human animal actually does when left to its own devices, we have to strip all that away.
Strip away the mortgages.
The mortgages, the performance reviews, the debt. We have to observe humanity before those financial systems even apply to us.
And, looking at the sources, the clearest way to see that baseline is to look at the one demographic that currently lives in a sort of post-scarcity economy.
Right, children.
Children, kids have their housing guaranteed. They get fed. They definitely don't clock in for a shift.
No, they don't.
So, according to this laziness objection, children should just, lie on the floor all day doing nothing.
Just staring at the ceiling.
Right. But anyone who has spent literally 5 minutes with a toddler knows that is wildly untrue.
Oh, absolutely. They are just in a state of relentless, chaotic activity.
Endless activity. They build these elaborate block towers just to smash them to pieces. They dig in the dirt. They ask just a relentless stream of questions.
And they do it entirely out of innate curiosity.
Yeah.
Nobody pays a child a salary to draw a picture or to invent a new game in the backyard.
Right. So there's no quarterly bonus for playing tag.
Exactly. You don't need a complex financial incentive structure to get a 7-year-old to figure out how a mechanical toy works.
They just rip it apart to see the gears.
They take it apart because human beings are born active. I mean, our neurological baseline is to interact with the world, manipulate it, and understand it.
And I do have to push back here on behalf of anyone listening who has ever, managed a team of adults or just tried to drag themselves through a Wednesday. Adults are not children.
No, we certainly aren't.
We just do not have that boundless energy and endless free time.
Fair point.
So the most pragmatic objection to this whole idea is that, let's just be honest, a lot of adults do appear lazy.
They do.
Right. When Friday night hits, a massive portion of the population just wants to collapse on the sofa and binge watch a screen for, 5 hours.
Right. That behavior is undeniably real. But I think we're completely misinterpreting the root cause here.
How so?
Well, we look at that adult on the couch and we immediately label it laziness. We assume it's their natural state.
Right. We judge them.
Exactly. But we have to ask the deeper psychological question. Are they actually lazy, or are they just profoundly disengaged and systemically exhausted?
Oh, wow. Yeah, thinking about this, a really specific image comes to mind. It's like calling a burned-out adult naturally lazy is like looking at a marathon runner who just collapsed at mile 20, pointing at them and saying, wow, what a fundamentally lazy person.
Right, look at them just lying there.
Exactly. Are they inherently lazy? No. They have been running in the wrong shoes, carrying a heavy backpack on a terrible track for 40 years.
That is a perfect analogy.
They aren't lazy, they're just completely exhausted.
And the physiological distinction between laziness and burnout is just critical here.
Yeah, tell me more about that.
Well, imagine spending 40 years performing repetitive, unfulfilling tasks that you actively dislike day in and day out.
Which is reality for so many people.
Right, and you do it simply because you have to survive. Neurologically, that environment actively prunes the natural curiosity pathways we're born with.
Wait, really? It literally changes your brain?
Yes. When society demands that you suppress your own intrinsic interest to just perform monotonous labor under this constant stress of survival,
Yeah.
your brain adapts. It actually adapts by shutting down non-essential engagement.
Oh, wow.
So that lack of enthusiasm on a Friday night, that isn't a symptom of a lazy nature. It is the symptom of a mind and body in recovery mode from systemic burnout.
That is wild. So the couch potato behavior isn't our default state at all.
Not at all.
It's the recovery position. It's just what happens when a system demands we spend most of our waking hours doing things we literally don't care about just to maintain the right to be alive.
And once you realize we're dealing with exhaustion rather than inherent laziness, the entire foundation of our economy starts looking, well, incredibly manipulative.
Yeah, I mean, it really does.
It forces us to ask, if we aren't inherently lazy, why is society using the threat of starvation to motivate us?
Right.
And what happens to a society that runs entirely on that mechanism?
Well, the mechanism driving the whole machine right now is fear.
Exactly, fear.
Fear of poverty, fear of missing a rent payment, fear of losing your health insurance.
Yes.
We rely on this massive collective anxiety as the stick driving the donkey forward.
And we are essentially running a global threat operating system.
The threat operating system, I like that.
But the thing is, fear is a highly inefficient, highly destructive fuel for human progress.
Right, because of the stress.
Exactly. When you're constantly worried about your basic security, your brain is chronically flooded with cortisol.
Which is the stress hormone.
Right. And that stress hormone literally shifts cognitive resources away from the prefrontal cortex.
And that's the part of the brain that handles what? The complex stuff.
Yes, that's where creativity, long-term planning, and complex problem-solving happen.
Oh, what?
And it redirects all that energy to the amygdala, which is your primal fight-or-flight center.
So we're just stuck in survival mode.
Exactly. By keeping people in a state of baseline anxiety, we are chemically suppressing their highest cognitive potential.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because when you look for evidence of what motivates us outside of that threat operating system, you find these massive, undeniable examples of alternative motivations.
Yes, absolutely.
Like purpose, pride and mastery, and just this deep-seated desire to contribute.
Which you see all the time in crises.
Yes, look at how human beings behave during natural disasters.
It's remarkable.
When a flood wipes out a town or an earthquake hits, strangers don't negotiate a contract before helping.
Right, they don't ask for your insurance information.
No. They jump into freezing water, they dig through rubble with their bare hands, they literally risk their own lives to save people they have never even met.
And they gain absolutely zero financial reward for doing it.
None at all.
In fact, they often sacrifice their own resources and safety.
Yeah.
And this completely shatters the economic model of the rational, self-interested actor.
Totally.
Because in the absence of everyday financial systems, when a crisis strips everything down to just basic human interaction, our instinct is to collaborate and contribute.
I mean, nobody is out there in a rescue boat holding up a credit card reader before pulling someone out of the water.
No, of course not.
It just proves that we have this profound innate drive to step up and improve the lives of others when the situation genuinely calls for it. The motivation is entirely intrinsic.
What's fascinating here is the stark contrast between that crisis behavior and our daily societal design.
Right, day and night.
If we are capable of that level of selfless, purpose-driven action, it strongly suggests that our daily reliance on fear isn't pushing us to achieve our best.
No, it's holding us back.
It's actually masking our drive for purpose. We are actively burying humanity's desire to contribute under a mountain of artificial scarcity and stress.
Okay, I hear that, and the philosophy is incredibly inspiring.
But
yeah, we have to address the most pragmatic, grounded objection to all of this. The classic dirty work dilemma.
Yes. The dirty work.
So what does this all mean for those jobs? Because if nobody is forced by economic threat to do the difficult, dangerous, or just completely exhausting jobs.
Right. Who does them?
Yeah. Who collects the trash?
Yeah.
Who cleans the sewers? Who maintains the electrical grid in a freezing storm? A society still has to function.
That is the ultimate stress test for this concept, isn't it?
Definitely.
And the answer requires looking at labor through a completely different lens. First, we have to recognize that people do not inherently run away from hard work, provided the work carries intrinsic meaning.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, look at doctors. They work
Yeah.
80-hour weeks to save lives. Look at firefighters running into burning buildings. That is the literal definition of dangerous work.
Oh, for sure.
Or scientists who spend decades failing at complex experiments just to find a single cure.
And those are incredibly grueling paths. I mean, a surgeon could easily use their intelligence to find a low-stress corporate job that pays well,
Absolutely.
but they choose the operating room. Why? Because the outcome matters. The work is tethered to a profound sense of purpose.
Yes.
And when the goal is meaningful, human beings will voluntarily endure staggering amounts of difficulty.
Exactly. Purpose handles the hard, meaningful work. But what about the jobs that lack that obvious life-saving prestige?
Right, the dirty jobs.
The jobs that are just physically destructive, exhausting, or mind-numbingly repetitive? This is where the shift in perspective gets truly radical.
Okay, I'm listening.
We have to stop asking who will be forced to do the terrible jobs and start asking why we assume those jobs must remain terrible in the first place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, if a job is dangerous, we shouldn't force a desperate person to do it.
No.
We should automate it. If it's exhausting, we redesign the workflow. If it's repetitive, we build better technology.
Precisely.
So the only reason we accept that awful jobs must stay awful is because there's a permanent underclass of people desperate enough to do them.
That's it, exactly. Capital always seeks the path of least resistance.
Right.
From a purely economic standpoint, if a logistics company has a warehouse full of heavy boxes,
Yeah.
and they can hire 200 people who are terrified of eviction to lift those boxes for poverty wages, that company has zero financial incentive to invest $50 million in researching and developing automated robotics.
Wow. Because the cheap human labor
Yeah.
just solves their immediate problem.
Yes.
So you're saying our reliance on cheap, desperate labor is actually a crutch. We are stunting our own technological growth because it's cheaper to exploit fear than to build a better machine.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it reveals a massive paradox in our economy. The constant availability of desperate workers fundamentally disincentivizes innovation.
That is so counterintuitive,
Yeah.
but it makes perfect sense.
Right. The desperation of the worker actually subsidizes the technological laziness of the corporation.
Technological laziness.
Yeah. But imagine if those workers had their basic needs met. Imagine they simply refused to break their backs for minimum wage.
The logistics company wouldn't just shrug and shut down.
No, they'd be forced to innovate. They would have to pour capital into automating the worst tasks.
That completely flips the script. The threat of poverty isn't driving progress at all.
No, it isn't.
It's actually keeping us technologically stagnant in massive sectors of the economy. So by removing financial desperation, society wouldn't collapse into a giant pile of uncollected garbage.
Not at all.
We would likely trigger an absolute renaissance in robotics, automation, and the ergonomic redesign of labor.
Exactly. If we can't buy cheap human suffering, we have to build better machines.
Man, that's powerful.
It forces evolution. It mandates that we elevate the standard of labor.
Right.
But, and I know we have to cover this, even with automation handling the worst tasks and purpose driving the most critical ones, we still have to confront the free rider problem.
Right. The skeptics.
Yes, the skeptic will inevitably point out that if you remove the fear of poverty, at least some people will choose to do absolutely nothing.
And we have to concede that point because, frankly, it's absolutely true.
It is.
Some people will do very little. But here is the thing. We already have that in our current system.
Oh, absolutely we do.
There are incredibly wealthy individuals right now, trust fund kids, billionaires, who never need to work a single day in their lives.
Right.
And a certain percentage of them choose to do absolutely nothing of societal value. They just consume.
Yes.
Yet somehow, civilization continues to function just fine.
Because the free rider argument focuses on the micro to completely ignore the macro.
Explain that.
Well, no system is perfect, and there will always be statistical outliers. The philosophical debate isn't about whether a few individuals will choose leisure over contribution.
Right. It's not about the one guy on the couch.
Exactly. The real question we're answering is about humanity at scale. Is our species as a whole naturally inclined toward meaningful activity?
And to answer that, All you have to do is look at the macro-level evidence of human history.
Yes. Look at the record.
Literally every single book that has ever been written, every tool ever invented, going all the way back to the wheel.
The wheel, agriculture, medicine.
Every scientific discovery, every symphony, every painting, every architectural marvel. Humanity did not build civilization because a group of people wanted to sit around doing nothing.
No, they didn't.
Early humans didn't invent language and tools to pay rent. They invented them because they were driven to solve problems.
It is the ultimate historical proof of the restless mind.
The restless mind.
The drive to tinker, to improve, to understand our environment. It's hardwired into our biology.
That perfectly captures the sheer, undeniable momentum of human creativity. We are builders by nature.
We are explorers.
Yes. When you zoom out and look at the vast timeline of human history, it is definitely not a story of a lazy species trying to get away with the bare minimum.
Far from it.
It's a story of a species that literally cannot stop imagining better ways to live.
And this raises an important question, which really brings us to the ultimate conclusion of this entire deep dive.
Okay.
If human history, child development, and crisis psychology all prove that we are naturally restless, creative, and eager to contribute, then the debate over basic needs completely shifts. The question is no longer, are humans lazy?
Right.
The real question is, are our current systems designed to nurture human potential, or are they designed to control it through fear?
Man, are we watering the restless mind, or are we paving over it with compliance?
That's the question, because if people are born curious, preserving that innate curiosity should be the primary goal of society. If people are naturally eager to contribute, the future of our civilization depends on creating the psychological and economic conditions where that contribution flows naturally.
Instead of forcing it.
Exactly. Trying to extract productivity through the threat of poverty is not just cruel, it's wildly inefficient.
It really is a complete paradigm shift. We're talking about moving from an extraction model to a cultivation model.
Yes.
Going from, how do I threaten you enough to make you work, to, how do I secure your foundation so you are free to contribute?
But it requires something very difficult for modern society to do.
What's that?
We have to trust human nature rather than fear it.
Wow. Yeah.
The laziness objection gets it wrong because it assumes the worst of us based solely on how we behave when we are stressed, exhausted, and coerced.
Why?
It completely ignores what humanity is capable of when we are secure, engaged, and driven by authentic purpose.
Well, let's bring all these threads together because we have covered some profound territory today.
We certainly have.
We started by looking at the uncompensated, relentless curiosity of children.
Which proves our baseline is active engagement.
Exactly. Then we tore apart the myth of the lazy adult, realizing that 40 years on a treadmill of fear creates systemic burnout, not laziness.
And we contrasted the inefficient, cortisol-drenched threat operating system of modern economics with the powerful intrinsic motivations of purpose and mastery.
Which we saw perfectly illustrated by how strangers selflessly mobilize during natural disasters.
Right.
Then we tackled the dirty work dilemma head on. We realized that cheap, desperate labor is actually a crutch holding back innovation.
Yes. Without it, society would be forced into a technological renaissance to automate and redesign those awful jobs.
And finally, we zoomed out to the macro level of human history.
Recognizing that the sum total of human achievement is undeniable proof of the restless creative mind.
We build civilization not out of a desire to do nothing, but out of an irrepressible biological drive to do something.
It's a fundamentally more optimistic way of viewing ourselves.
And evidence-based.
Yes, exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to turn the mirror directly to you, the listener. Think about your own life for a moment. When you look back at your proudest achievements, the moments when you worked your absolute hardest, when you were in the zone and just unstoppable, what was actually driving you?
That's a great question.
Were you grinding away simply out of the stark terror of losing your basic security? Or was there something deeper?
Usually it's something deeper.
Right. Were you driven by a genuine sense of purpose, by the desire to master a complex skill, or to contribute something meaningful to your team, your family, or the world?
Ask yourself what you would choose to do tomorrow if your basic survival was no longer the primary thing you had to worry about today.
Yeah. If the rent was permanently paid, would you truly do nothing?
Or would you finally have the cognitive bandwidth to pursue the work you've always known you were meant to do?
It's such a profound thought experiment, and I want to leave you with one final lingering idea to chew on long after you finish listening today.
Okay, what is it?
Think about the sheer scale of human progress up to this point.
Right.
Every medical breakthrough that has eradicated a disease, every masterpiece of art that moves us to tears, every technological leap that has connected the globe.
And all of it was achieved despite a staggering limitation.
Yes, all of it was achieved despite the fact that the vast, overwhelming majority of humans throughout history have spent their entire lives trapped in fear-based survival labor.
Just trying to put food on the table.
Exactly. Keeping a roof over their heads. Only a microscopic fraction of humanity has ever had the luxury of freedom, the security to devote their full cognitive resources to innovation, discovery, and creation.
The genius of the rest of humanity has just been lost to the daily grind of survival.
So imagine the evolutionary leap we might make as a species if we change that baseline.
Just imagine it.
Imagine if, suddenly, 100% of human brain power was freed up. If 8 billion restless minds were released from the daily panic of just trying to pay next month's rent and were allowed to focus entirely on solving complex global problems.
Creating new art, exploring the universe.
What could we become if we finally stopped running just to survive and started running to see how far we could go?
It completely redefines the limits of human potential.
It really does. So tomorrow morning, when that alarm clock goes off at 6 a.m. and it's dark and raining outside, just remember, you might not be an inherently lazy person trying to avoid a hard day's work.
No.
You might just be an exhausted marathon runner, desperately in need of a new pair of shoes.
And perhaps an entirely new track to run on.